too long. Still loading onto the channel, just need to give it time. Hopefully it won't take too long. Hopefully. There it is there. Game audio is working. And party audio is working, that's good. So the stream's up, the chat's up, we're all good to go. Well, hello everyone and welcome to round 10 of the Pacific Elite Series here on Race Spec Esports. I'm Lane Everingham, your commentator for this event, and tonight we'll be racing at a very rainy Silverstone Circuit, home of the British Grand Prix. Hosting the first ever official round of the Formula One World Championship all the way back in the year of 1950, Silverstone has evolved tremendously over the years. What was initially a RAF airfield used during the Second World War has become not only one of the premier racetracks of Europe, but also one of the greatest racetracks of all time. The layout on which we race on today was created in 2011 and measures up at 5.89 kilometres. It consists of 18 corners and 2 DRS zones that lead into the prime overtaking spots of Brooklands and Stowe. Outside of these areas, the drivers will find it difficult to overtake, especially if these wet weather conditions hold up in the race as well. But if it is dry, the circuit is quite notorious for creating DRS trains. When those long trains start to form, it's almost impossible for any driver to make their way through them. This means qualifying will prove to be incredibly important for achieving victory today. As a result, a car's setup will prove to be more than an important factor for extracting lap time. It's an obvious thing to say, but here at Silverstone, the track requires the driver to strike a balance between downforce and low drag. There are several high-speed corners around the racetrack. Corners such as turns 1 and 2, the famous turn 9 of Copse Corner, and of course the infamous S's of Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. But there are also several long straights that require low drag, so those slight changes and differences in wing angle, ride height and tyre pressure could make all the difference when it comes to getting lap time in qualifying or giving greater opportunities to make overtakes during the race. Now before we focus on qualifying, there is a bit of news to go through first from last week's race in Australia. There were 2 incident reports, the first involving Roscoe and Spicy, and Spicy was involved in a collision with Roscoe and he was given a 5-second time penalty. That is, Spicy was given a 5-second time penalty and 1 penalty point for causing a collision. There was also another slight collision between Bags Liddell and ACW. ACW was found at fault, but it was only a very minor collision, so he was only given a penalty point. No time penalty was applied. With that time penalty applied to Spicy, he would move from P6 to P7 in the final results. In the Drivers' Championship, Smithy is leading the way on 242 points, followed by F1 Ferrari Pro on 205. Just 4 points behind him is his teammate ACW on 201, followed by Plevs on 151. GeForce Pato is 1 point behind his teammate on 150, followed by Bags Liddell on 108, Spicy on 87, Roscoe on 84, Pump on 77, and Marveland rounds out the top 10 on 43 points. In the Constructors, Ferrari lead, and a healthy lead at that. They're on 406 points, followed by Aston Martin on 350. Although the gap is quite healthy, we've still got 6 rounds to go, so the championship is not over yet, not by a long shot. And Alpine, they're on 301 points, so they're 49 behind Aston Martin. They've got a lot of ground to make up, and with only one driver competing tonight, yeah, this might be another losing round for the French outfit. In 4th place is Alfa Romeo on 117 points, followed by Mercedes on 93, Williams on 86, McLaren on 79, Haas on 56, AlphaTauri and Red Bull Racing complete the bottom of the table. They're both on 35 points. But that's pretty much it in terms of news. We can now focus on qualifying, and I can introduce my co-commentator for tonight, who is once again KD 1997. KD, you've already done your race around here a week ago, back on Wednesday, for me anyway, for Tuesday for you. But you were faced with similar-ish conditions, not heavyweight, but intermediate conditions. What is it like driving around this Silverstone Circuit in those tricky conditions?
Well, with the setup I had last week, not the greatest if I'm totally honest. I mean, I didn't have the pace as we kind of saw from last week. I kind of had a more of a dryish sort of setup compared to what some people had.
Yep.
But yeah, it wasn't too bad though overall. I wish I could have had my front wings just a little bit adjusted more. But other than that, it wasn't too bad really overall. I felt driving into the conditions. Although I don't know what it's like with the wets. Although I imagine that it's going to be quite difficult for a lot of these drivers here tonight. As you mentioned before, like it's very tricky in some areas around this track with the wet weather conditions, especially Gulf War, which for me in these conditions has been a nightmare. And I think everyone else can probably back me up on that as well.
Ferrari Pro made a mistake on his first flying lap, making his way through the Maggots and Beckett's S's. We're going to ride on board with our defending Drivers' Champion, give you a tour of this 5.9 kilometre racetrack. Down towards Abbey, turn 1, 7th gear down to 6 at the apex, through turn 2 the left-hander, and up towards turn 3, hard on the brakes, down to 3rd gear. As he clips the apex, he short shifts up to 4th as his teammate jumps to the top of the table. Around the loop, turn 4, up towards Aintree, turn 5. It's important that you get a nice run through turns 4 and 5, so you can maximise the top end speed, heading down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands here, turn 6. Down to 4th gear, back on the accelerator, short shifting up to 5th, heading around Luffield, turn 7, short shifting again up to 4th gear, trying to gently apply the power down, avoiding the outside curb as he heads around Woodcote, turn 8, down the old pit straight, and up towards Cops Corner, turn 9. An incredibly treacherous corner in any conditions, but especially in wet weather conditions. Into the S's now, through Maggots, turn 10, then turn 11, turn 12, the left-hander, around the 13 of Beckett's, then turn 14 of Chapel. Oh, a big old slide again. He loses control and kisses the barrier.
Just kissed it. Well, at least it didn't have worse.
So yeah, he lost it, he saved it, he lost it, he saved it, and then he lost it.
I wonder if he's maybe having a bit of a dry, if he has a dry setup on, because I noticed about as fast he was going towards Cup's corner.
He was carrying that sort of top end speed, so you might be right, he might have a dry setup and just sort of fighting the car through the conditions. It's not easy to do. Well, we know that as drivers, KD, how difficult it can be using a dry setup in full wet conditions, not just intermediate conditions, but full wet conditions. It's almost sometimes it's almost impossible. But
Absolutely,
these guys are good enough to try and overcome the challenge. Now down towards Stowe Corner for Bags Liddell. Complete the lap. Stowe probably the second best overtaking spot on the circuit after Brooklands. And now into the Vale chicane, 3rd gear, missing the apex via postcode as he heads through turn 17, up towards the final corner of turn 18, Club Corner, and back onto the Hamilton Straight. P9 for Bags Liddell with a 44.002. I'm not blaming Bags for missing the apex, it's just adjusting to the conditions.
Yeah, probably also you can't see much very well too with the with the water on the camera lens as well. That also can be a bit of a tricky factor, the visibility.
It's always annoying when a raindrop just falls over the apex and you can't properly see the apex of the corner in front. I find that so unbelievably annoying when the game does that to you. But you know, that's what everyone's got to deal with it at some point. It happens to just about everybody. So but, in terms of reserves tonight as well, we've got Big Al here, who's usually a Pacific Tier 1 competitor, or a big slide exiting Luffield. I imagine Big Al is going to be towards the top. He's our current championship leader in Pacific Tier 1. We also have G-Force Ford, our defending Tier 1 Drivers' Champion. So we've got two pretty quick reserves filling in for Pacifica League. But even so, we've got a very small field, only 12 competitors in today's race, as Al has a huge slide coming out of Chapel and he actually backs out of the lap. But attendance was so small, I actually offered to race, just to try and fill in the numbers. I drew the line at 12 competitors, and that's exactly how many we have. As Sergio Pleves goes P3 with a 40.9, essentially. Pleves, I get it. I think everyone gets it, but why? Just... why? Pleves was just fine. They calling yourself Sergio Pleves. You're in an Alpine.
Yeah, you're not in a Red Bull.
If you were in a Red Bull, I would have drawn the line at like a Sauber. Oh, okay, and you know that kind of works. But yeah, no, well, it doesn't matter, I guess. The meme's there, and we all get the meme. ACW is up by 4.5 tenths to the middle sector as well.
As he does a meme by Spain left field.
Oh yes, his dot is stationary at turn 7. He is now moving. He is no longer stationary. But appears the conditions might be getting lighter here too. I don't know about you.
It's a little bit. I have noticed that one of the drivers was talking about going to the inches. Gee whiz, ACW caught the car there pretty well. Improves. But no, I noticed Marvelin in the pit lane has gone on to the inches. I know it hasn't come out yet, but I can see on the tire graphic that he switched over to those tires.
If it does change to intermediate conditions towards the end of qualifying, we might get a bit of a scrambled grid. I mean, it's not much considering we have 12 drivers, but we might have some towards the end of the qualifying still willing to use the wet weather tyre, and some gambling and putting on the Inter. Right. It's a bit tricky in these conditions though, especially in F122, because the change in conditions isn't completely definite. Like, there are periods where the track can appear completely dry, but the inters still work. And sometimes the track can look full wet, and the inters still work. It can be very, very tricky. And sometimes it can look intermediate, but the full wet tyre is the go-to. It's so weird and unpredictable at times. That you just sort of have to rely a little bit on luck and looking at the weather graph in the garage to make sure you put on the right tyre at the right time.
Although in this game we don't really know that because the game is so broken with its weather system.
Yes, you can't rely on the icons, you have to actually rely on the percentage underneath the icon to get an accurate reading of what the weather's going to be like. So, I don't know where the limit would be. What, over 75% would it be? As a guess, that's when full wet conditions sort of begin. Maybe 75, maybe a bit higher. Don't know. Hard to say.
I mean, if you want a rough estimate, I remember when we raced last Tuesday, it said there was 72%, which is still intermediate conditions apparently.
Yeah.
So, I guess we were sort of borderline towards the wets, but I don't know. Like, obviously we never got to that point.
Yeah.
Last week we were all intermediates, but yeah.
Interesting. Well, at least it gives us an idea. It's definitely over 70% then. For the crossover point from intermediate to full wet conditions. I would actually have to look that up. I don't know where the line would be. I've got absolutely no idea. Kong at the moment is up by 0.3 of a second to the middle sector. He's looking at a high 41, but even with that kind of lap time, he'll stay P8 as he understeers and completely misses Stowe. Fortunately for him, no invalidation, and he's going to keep pushing on this run, it seems, as Smithy jumps to the top with a 39.9. So yes, the conditions do seem to be improving, as Kong improves by 0.4, even after missing Stowe Corner. He missed it by so much, he almost ended up in France. But he still improves by 0.4.
Well, they are across from each other.
That's right. But we got plenty of drivers on intermediates now, so I'm guessing a lot of drivers want to take the gamble, go out on the intermediate tyre, And the conditions look right. The rain does not look heavy. There's not a great deal of standing water from what I can tell. There's still puddles adjacent from the racetrack. Like if you look in the runoff areas, of course, there are puddles. But on the racetrack itself, it looks pretty clean. It doesn't have those big pools of water anywhere. So maybe it is time for inters. But if they get it wrong, there's only 3 minutes left in qualifying. So you won't have time to go back in and put on another set. This is your gamble. You have to hope that you made the right decision. If you haven't, well, your best time is what you've set a few minutes earlier in this qualifying session. I mean, Smithy is still out on the track, isn't it? Oh, he's coming in now.
Yeah, Kondo has yet to get back into the pits and change on those tires. Oh, but he's not going in. Okay, well, okay. Fair enough.
He's going to keep running around, it seems, on these wets to see if he can extract more lap time. He's going to extract lap time here, yeah, 40.9.
Okay.
If it works, then he'd look like a genius. Alright, Ferrari Pro, what have you got in the tank? He heads down the Hamilton straight and begins a flying lap attempt through Abbey, turn 1, 6th gear, as he heads through turn 2. Big safety lift through the middle of the corner, then on the brakes down to turn 3. Short shifting up to 4th gear on the exit, modulating the throttle nicely, tiptoeing the car through every apex, as he heads around Aintree turn 5 and onto the Wellington straight. Up towards the first sector split. The clock says he's down by 4/10. And I don't think he made a mistake through that first sector.
Not that I saw. Let's see, what about his teammate?
7/10 down.
Yep, same story.
It's not intermediate conditions, is it? Can't be then. If they're losing this much time, Kong's up to the middle sector. What about Sergio Pleves as he makes his way around turn 4 up towards Aintree turn 5? So look at him tiptoeing his way. The car's skating. Nice catch. Yeah. And Smithy, he's on wets right now. Plebs is up by 78 thousandths. So he's found time. It's just the two Ferraris haven't. Right, ACW to the middle sector is down by 6/10 of a second.
P2.
Yep, 40.4. Ferrari Pro, 3 corners left through the Vale chicane, gently applying the accelerator out to the final corner, crossing the line. He improves by 2/10, so it's steadily going towards intermediate conditions. You need to time it right. You need to cross the line right as the clock says 0 when you begin your final run, as Al has a moment through turn 9. Big side, but he caught it well. ACW. He crosses the line. Doesn't improve, but he saved up his battery, so he's going for another proper attempt as he heads through turns 1 and 2. Bags Liddell as well down to the middle sector. What about Plebs here as he makes his way through the final path of the lap? 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 flat. It's not enough for pole. It's P2. Smithy's session is done. He will not be able to improve on that 39.9.
Keep your eye on Big Al. He could possibly go to the top.
He will. 39.491. Spicy jumps up to P2. So right at the end of this session, the intermediate tyres have turned on. Forward on a lap. G-Force Zach coming towards the end of a flying lap here. Same with his teammate. His session is done actually. Roscar making his way through the Maggots and Beckett's S's. Nice and steady through here. Clips every apex. Kong retires from the session. He has crashed out at the final corner. More than likely deliberately. We'll find out. Only a few corners left for Ferrari Pro. Can he jump up to the top here? Around club corner, up towards the line. It's a 39 flat. It's provisional pole. But who else can challenge him? ACW is up by 16 thousandths to the mid-sector. G-Force Ford, he's got 3 corners left as well. Can he challenge for pole position? out of the Vale chicane, up towards the final corner. Round club for ACW, huge wiggle. It is P9, Ford, P1. Ford takes pole. Didn't quite catch the lap time he set, we'll find out. He took pole, but not by much. 25 thousandths of a second, separating the top two at the end of qualifying. Ferrari Pro will start alongside him on the front row, just barely missing out on pole position. Big Al will start P3, followed by Spicy in 4th, Roscoe Arm 5th, Smithy P6, followed by Plebs in 7th, Kong 8th, Zach 9th, and ACW rounds out the top 10. Not the best of ends to qualify for ACW. Bags Liddell P11, followed by Marvland in 12th position. So there we are. The conditions came good to the intermediate runners right at the death of qualifying, KD. It seems their gamble paid off. It didn't look like it at the start, though.
Yeah, it's just if you just had to wait a little bit towards the end of qualifying, and that's exactly what the drivers that got it right. Well, that was the case, and I mean, well done to Ford and Ferrari Pro. I mean, they were close to each other. About what was it, over 25 thousandths?
Yep.
You said between those two? Yeah, no, that's good effort. I reckon ACW could have been up there too if he didn't make that mistake on the final sector. But
well, he mentioned in the chat he had no grip. So
yeah.
And it looked like it. His car was skating everywhere. It was like he was on Pirelli banana peel compound tyres rather than on intermediates. He was sliding absolutely everywhere. So, yeah, a bit of a luck of the draw right at the end of qualifying, either staying out on the wets or moving on to the Inter. It seemed that moving on to the Inter was the right thing to do, though it really did not look like that at the beginning of sort of the final part of qualifying. I thought the intermediate runners got it wrong, and Kong pulled out this master strat right at the end of qualifying. Didn't happen though, because the conditions changed literally within a lap. The conditions changed to intermediate within a lap. That's pretty rapid progression, if I do say so. To go from 6/10ths down in a sector to finding 6/10ths in another sector on the same lap. That's pretty nuts. But that's how it works. That's the game. So no obvious signs of wet weather conditions for this race here at Silverstone. We'll see what the drivers have elected to start on. And what do you know, it's a pretty one-sided story. We'll run through the order just quickly. We've got GeForce Ford starting from pole position with Ferrari Pro alongside him on the front row. Big Al in P3, followed by Spicy in 4th. Roscoe Arm P5, then Smithy, our championship leader, down in the middle of the field in P6. Sergio Pleves is in P7. Top 7, they're all starting on the hard compound tyre. Kong in P8 is the only driver in the field starting on the mediums. G4 Zach in P9, followed by ACW in 10th, Bags Liddell in 11th, and Marvelant in P12 are starting on the hard tyre too. So, 11 cars on the hards, 1 on the mediums. Yeah, like I said, KD, it's a pretty one-sided affair.
Yep, and that doesn't shock me at all because that's something I'm gonna sound like a record saying this, but yeah, it's something we've been seeing commonly, haven't we?
Yeah.
With this whole one-sided dominance on the hard tires.
But, typically, if we saw Smitty towards the front, we see a few people start on the mediums, but now he's in the middle of the pack, and was that a car flying off? It was.
Yeah, it's an Alfa Romeo. Is that Big Al? It was Big Al.
Black thing out, not green thing. That would be my recommendation. For any driver in this race, stay on the black thing.
Yeah, unless you're a rally car, then fine. Maybe
don't go on green thing still. You want to go on gravel thing, the brown thing. That's what you want to go on.
True.
Green thing, even on dirt tyres, doesn't offer a great deal of grip.
Yeah, that's true.
As Al makes his way through, up towards his grid slot. G-Force Ford will start on the outside run to turn 1. It's the cleaner side of the racetrack, but if he doesn't get a great start, Ferrari Pro will have the whole shot down the inside to try and take the lead. All 12 cars are lined up ready to run. We've got 26 laps in front of us and 5 red lights. We're underway here at Silverstone. It's a nice start from Big Al in P3. He goes between the top 2 and moves through into the lead through turn 1. Spicy up to P3. The 2 Benzers making their way side by side through turn 2 and up towards turn 3. Well, Kong trying to look around the outside here as the 2 Mercs are still battling for position. Smithy's still in P6, Roscoe Arm off the road, he's now down to last. As we head around Aintree for the first time in race conditions, all of the leaders have gotten away pretty well. It's only Roscoe Arm who has found trouble early on. Through Brooklands, turn 6. Up towards turn 7. Kong looking left and right on those medium compound tyres. And now Smithy draws alongside, heading through Luffield, through Woodcote, onto the old pit straight. Who's got longer legs? Is it the Aston? Is it the Red Bull? As we head into Copse Corner, Smithy gets in front. A tidy move indeed. Kong tries to fight back though. Through Maggots. He gets back in front. Great battle between those 2. Kong moves back up to 5th. Smithy back down into 6th. But a pretty tidy opening lap so far, KD.
Yeah, not too bad from Kong there. Getting a few spots, making the most of those medium tires. He's going to try to go for a move on Ford down the inside of Stowe. Ford trying to hang on the outside. Oh, that's a bit of a twitch there at the exit of Stowe. Calling the braking late there, the outside of Vale. He'll have the inside line. Yeah, oh! That's a bit of contact. Twitch. Oh, he's trying to hang on, but he can't. Not quite. Ford still retains the spot. I'm sorry, Spicy retains the spot. My bad. I'm looking at the wrong mark.
Round the outside again, this time at turn 3. Smithy on the back of him, not going for a move just yet. But Kong's going for it. He's trying to utilise the grip of the medium tyres straight away. The trouble is, with him battling so much, there's now a 2-second gap between the 2 Mercedes.
Yeah. You got the interval all screw up for you, haven't you?
Right,
second
now.
and third?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, just making sure. That's what kind of threw me off a bit. But you know another thing too, I mean this is a bit of a side thing. Con's move looks similar to what I did at Silverstone 2 seasons ago against Renner Jr. at Copse Corner with that over-under move.
There's several ways you can try and pass around here at Silverstone. Typically it's limited to the DRS zones, but if you're game enough and you've got the grip underneath you as well, you can try some more unorthodox moves. And right now Con's got the grip, he's got the medium compound tyre, while everyone else around him is on the hard tyre. So he can use that to his advantage. Trouble is though, he hasn't made the move completely stick yet. So while the battling has been quite entertaining, ultimately he's losing. Because he's now 2.3 seconds behind the top 3.
Yeah, and that's also going to be hard too. Like, if you're not in that DRS train, you're basically, you're basically just sitting to death. Your best hopes is really just maybe for something to happen in this race, whether it be a safety car or some sort of mistake happening towards the front.
Pretty much. It's probably the biggest troubling thing about Silverstone in online league racing. It is very difficult to move forward when you're in these long DRS trains. You have to be very game to try and make moves. But if you're stuck in the middle of them, when everyone's got DRS, nobody's gaining, nobody's building momentum. It's so very tricky to try and make a move. You sort of have to be patient, wait for the mistake if it comes. Trouble is with these guys, a lot of these guys are good enough not to make a mistake. So you're really relying on qualifying to get you as far up the field as possible. Speaking of which, Big Al leading the way for Ferrari Pro in second, Ford third. What do you know? 2 of the best drivers in Tier 1 at the front of the field in the Elite Series. And then 1 and 3 right now. Ferrari Pro, also a Tier 1 driver. Trying to dish it up. There's big driver points on offer here for Ferrari Pro with Smithy down in P6. It'll be a healthy swing back in Ferrari Pro's favour in the Drivers' Championship. It's still very much on between the two Ferraris and Smithy. It's not over just yet. Especially with this race plus 5 races or 5 rounds. Oh, a spin! Ford spins!
He has. Oh dear.
Great rejoin.
Yeah. Yeah, thankfully Gustin's on. That's me at Aintree. Interesting.
He's done that before too.
Yeah.
He did that last season, if I remember correctly, in Pacific Tier 1. So that's not too good. Ford's now at the back and he's got to move his way forward. So what was a battle for 4th has now turned into a battle for 3rd. Funnily enough, it's still a murk in 3rd too.
Pretty much.
Or Kong utilising a unique racing line at the exit of turn 9. Again, he's using that French line through there. He gets closer to France every time he does it.
I wonder if he says Sacre Bleu every time he misses the apex.
He's a huge fan of Le Castellet. He's actually really heartbroken that it's gone.
That's Ford now overtakes Marlon, trying to work his way back up after that mistake.
And Ford's a kind of go-getter driver, so he'll try and make moves buried in the pack. He'll go for those dive bombs that maybe some of the other drivers won't do. He'll be pretty aggressive, I reckon. His next target will be Roscoe. So we'll keep an eye on that gap. Right now, I want to keep an eye on this battle for 3rd. Al's controlling the race well enough that he's keeping Ferrari Pro at bay. But it hasn't broken outside of that 1 second range. Here comes Smithy. He's got to run. He looks to the inside. Kong leaves the door open. But comes back at him on the inside of left field. Wheel-to-wheel contact. Nothing too major. It's tight. But they get through it. Around Woodcote, Kong stays in front. So Smithy's got pace right now, but Kong on those medium compound tyres is able to fight back. Through the S's and Maggots. Into Beckett's, the right-hander here at 13. Then Chappell. Onto the hanger straight. Up towards Stowe. Smithy a bit too far behind, I'm afraid, to try and do anything just yet. Players putting on a bit of pressure to the back of Bags Liddell. Before Zach, P9. Then we've got Roscoe Arm with Ford closing in. So these two are going to start battling in a minute. Al out in front. Leading the way. 5.5 tenths is the gap. Now 6 tenths between the top two. Bags Liddell gets a 3-second time penalty. Around the loop, turn 4. Tidy run from Ferrari Pro. Decent exit as well. He'll close in with the help of DRS. Spicy in P3. Kong P4. And what do you know? Ford's got by Roscoe. He moves through into P10. He now has to close a 6.6 second back. 6.6 second gap to his G-Force compatriot, G-Force Zach. Oh, that's not a great start, Ford. Almost spinning again is not ideal.
Not at Luffield, especially.
Especially Luffield, yes, I agree. Completely.
Of all places.
Yep. Sergio Pleves trying to find a way by Bags Liddell, and he's currently been unsuccessful. He's got a flipping run though. Smithy and Kong battling for position. Pleves down the inside of Liddell. Coming out of Stowe. The Alpine gets in front and moves through into P7. A tidy battle between those two. Now to this. Kong, Smithy. Smithy will try and attack Spicy here. Sets a new fastest lap, a 30.7. Through turn 1. Turn 2. Up towards Village, turn 3. Down through the gears. Down to 4th, clipping the apex. Heading around turn 4. The loop. Up towards Aintree, turn 5. Kong will have a go. Oh, sorry, Smithy will have a go. Spicy won't have much to try and respond to that. So Smithy passes Spicy at Brooklands. Moves through into third.
He's got some speed in that Aston Martin as well, I've been noticing too. He seems to be have a very quick car down the straights, for sure.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be a tough cookie to keep behind. Now the gap between Smithy and Ferrari Pro sits at about 4.9 seconds. So we've got to keep an eye on that gap. As well as that, we've got to keep an eye on the interval between Al and Ferrari Pro. Because at the moment, it's just over 1 second. If Ferrari Pro starts to lose DRS, he may fall into the clutches of Smithy.
Good. He could indeed. And the thing is, too, is that Big Al's got more battery usage compared to Ferrari Pro. About
but 50... a spin for the race leader! Big Al has thrown away the race lead at the final corner, at the beginning of lap 8. Down the inside of turn 1 goes Smithy. He moves into P2.
Wow. Okay. So much for what I was just saying about the battery usage.
Well, he now needs to use a little bit, I reckon. And now we've got to really keep an eye on the gap between Ferrari Pro and Smithy, because, well, now Smithy has a new competitor, and it's the former Big Al. So, we know how quick Al is, we know how quick Spicy can be. ACW is in this train. In fact, the entirety of the mid-pack is in this train. So, yeah, no. If Smithy can put the hammer down and try and build up a gap, that won't be too much of a problem. But if those behind keep up, provide a bit of a nuisance, well, might have a battle on here for P2. But right now, Smithy's hauling. He's pulling away.
He's trying to do everything he can to close up to Ferrari Pro, of course. So how quick his car was in the straight line. See if he can maybe use that to his advantage as well.
With DRS assistance, Al is able to close in by a little over a tenth down the hangar straight. But in a few other areas, even through corners, seems that Al was losing a little bit of time. So Smithy's got a pretty quick car underneath him. He's got raw straight line speed and pretty competitive cornering ability right now.
Yeah, at least enough to keep Al at bay, at least for now. Oh, wow, that's a confident send there from Big Al to go and deal on the brakes like that.
Big Al going for the big braking send.
Oh! Maybe not almost went for a big spin again.
He's going to imitate his friend Ford there at turn 4. That's what he was trying to do. He caught it pretty well. As Fordy, speaking of which, moves through into P9. He overtakes his G-Force compatriot, G-Force Zach. His next target will be Bags Liddell in P8.
What is it with the Pacific Tier 1 drivers just having some sort of mistake in Pacific Elite?
Wash.
There you go.
Literally, it was raining in qualifying.
True. I mean, I just say that because we go back to 2 seasons ago when Ford threw away, what was it, a 10-second lead he had over ACW at Imola?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm sure he'd love to be reminded of that as well.
Well, he'll be reminded if he watches the stream again. Sorry, Ford.
I mean, it happened. There's only one person to blame in all of that. So,
yeah. True.
It was pretty, flabbergasted. Probably the nicest way of putting it. He wasn't happy with himself. I wouldn't be either.
No. Nobody should if they did something like that. Excuse me, did something like that. Yellows.
Ford?
Oh, yeah. He's on another one. This time at the entry of Loop.
Well, call him G-Force Spin, I think, from now on. He's done a fair few. Roscoe Arm has done the same.
Yeah, at the exit of it. There goes Marvelant.
Yep, through into 11th. So Roscoe Arm, like his teammate Al, spinning out. losing places, losing time. Time you really can't afford to lose at Silverstone. If you're not in this pack, you can see this huge pack right here, making their way through the middle sector. If you're not in the pack, you're not in the race. Okay? Your race is pretty much donezo if you're not in this pack. Because the likelihood of a safety car with only 12 cars competing is quite low. So you're relying on your pace, your strategy, to make sure you can make up as many positions as possible.
It's almost like, well, if I could put it another way too, from another motorsport, NASCAR, when you have restrictor plate racing, if you're not within a pack, obviously, your race is kind of basically tarnished at some point.
Absolutely. But that's what we should call Silverstone. It's a pack track. Everyone just goes into a sort of pack racing formula.
Austria can be qualified for that as well. I've seen quite a bit of that. I think you would agree with me on that too.
Absolutely. Red Bull Ring is maybe not as notorious as Silverstone. Silverstone, it's happened in almost any game you can think of. We've always had this sort of pack racing where everyone's bunched up, nowhere really to go. And that's purely because of the nature of the racetrack. It's so tough to pass because it's such a fast circuit. Going through Copse Corner here. It's a ridiculously fast corner. And then we've got the infamous Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel S's. There's no way you're passing anywhere through here as G4 seconds or 3 second time penalty. You can try and pass towards Stowe with DRS, but everyone else around you's got DRS, so what help does that give you? None. So
in the situation, you're better off being the second car as on the queue.
Yes. You want to be Big Al right here.
Yeah.
On the back of Smithy, applying pressure. And he is doing that. He's half a second back, but Smithy, well, he's putting the hammer down. 4.4 seconds is the gap between him and this man, Ferrari Pro, who is leading this British Grand Prix. That lap 12, by the way. We're getting close to the pit window. If I remember correctly as well, KD, undercut works pretty well here.
Yeah, it did prove it last week. And it's proven in a lot of other games we've done over the course of F1 around this place. And the thing is, too, the pit lane, obviously, we know, is the longest pit lane in the century of the world because it is ridiculously bad. Well, not bad, I should say. It's just long.
It is long.
You're tethering your way down the pit lane at 37 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour. Just crawling, literally crawling, and it's just like you lose, what, 30 seconds?
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of time. And it's purely because of how the racetrack and the pit lane entry is designed, because the pit lane entry cuts 3 flipping corners. So if you have the speed limit any higher than 60 kilometers an hour, you would actually gain time if you go through there. It's a bit like the Ayrton Senna Donington strat that he explored in the European Grand Prix of 94, or 93, sorry, as Kong moves into pit lane, as Roscoe as well gets a 3 second time penalty. So, yeah, the speed limit is ridiculously low, and the speed limiter line comes at you pretty fast. So you need to be on top of your toes on the brakes, otherwise you're going to get a speeding penalty. And it's really easy to get at Silverstone.
Oh, that's it. Zach's in there as well, same with Roscoe. Also, another thing too with these cars, coming out of the pits, it's tricky. No. It's very tricky. It's much trickier than what it was previously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you're on hard tires coming out of that pit lane, it takes a little longer than what it would if let's say you come out on medium tires or some tires, of course.
Very easy to grosge on it.
Yeah.
So, and all the drivers will know that. We know what cold, hard tyres are like. It's like driving on ice. And going through an uphill little S section coming out of the pits, yeah, it's very easy to trip yourself up, chuck it into a barrier and break a front wing. So, Al, here we go. Down the inside. So he moves into second place. So not a huge fight there from Smithy. Just left the inside line open and into the pits comes out. Ferrari Pro is in too.
Yep, and Smithy stays there for another lap. Although those tires are definitely
Hello.
Hello.
5-second penalty.
Not ideal, Bags. Not ideal.
Yep. That's absolutely right, KD. And that's Silverstone. You got to be careful. Long story short, you really have to be careful. Yeah, a lot of drivers going for that early stop onto the mediums. I am a tad bit surprised to see a few drivers. I mean, ACW makes sense. He's in the other Ferrari, so he doesn't want to get balked by his teammate. That makes sense. But you got both Mercs out there. Smithy's still running. He didn't take pit priority. He stayed out. Bags took the opportunity to pit for new tyres. So if Smithy got that much pace, can he overcut his rivals? Surely not.
I mean, the gap was, what, 4 seconds before Ferrari Pro entered the pit line. That... I'm not sure about that.
We'll find out. See what Smithy does.
So he's coming to Stowe. Ferrari Pro is just about to enter Cops. We'll see. He's coming in now. And Spicy will come in too.
Yeah, I thought that was too quick. That looked too quick.
Yeah,
I'm like, he better check it up. He better check it up pretty hard. He didn't check it up hard enough. I thought that was too quick.
Oh, what's the fastest lap on Hearts? Well, there you go. Jesus.
Alright, through the Vale chicane goes F1 Ferrari Pro. He's heading up towards Club. Smithy heading towards the exit of the pits. Ferrari Pro should resume the race lead here. He shall, but what is the gap? That's the critical part of this. Big Al moves through into third place. That is provisional P2. He is in front of Smithy. Just like what happened after he overtook him at Stowe a few laps ago. But the gap is now 1.4 seconds. The overall gap to Ferrari Pro has shrunk, I believe.
It has.
It's now about 3.2.
Yeah. It really has shrunk a bit. And Al's also going quicker too. He's set a purple first sector. I just noticed there.
So all that hard work in the beginning from Ferrari Pro, all that time is starting to just dwindle away. Al is catching up. Smithy will follow. We know how much pace Smithy has. Spicy in P5 on fresh tyres, ACW, and there is Sergio Plaves. I'm still trying to process that name.
He'll just give everyone giggles.
What can Plaves do in this kind of position? He's third in the DRS train. Oh, he's deep on the brakes is what he is through 16. Plaves will probably have a pretty decent straight line speed setup, so he may or may not have a straight line advantage over ACW. I suppose we can only find out by one way. Where is Ford? There he is. There's Con.
Hey. Hello, Con.
Bye, Con.
Yeah, we'll be overtaken shortly. Sorry to say.
Yeah, those hard tyres are not going to have a lot of speed right here, right now. So, ACW closing in on Spicy. Sergio Plaves still there or thereabouts in P6.
Yeah, that's too funny.
Like I said, it's just my mind's on internet speed dial when fucking I say Sergio Plaves. Like, it's that dial-up sound, that internet dial-up sound from the 90s.
Yeah.
Trying to just comprehend that name. It's just... What isn't too hard to process is ACW. Going around the outside of Spicy here at Stowe, he makes his way through into 4th place. Gets in front, tidy move. We'll see if Spicy can try and fight back.
Still got plenty left to go, but he's got that penalty though looming over his head. That's the other critical bit. That's Smithy, so it's fastest lap, and oh hello.
It's Bags.
Bags Liddell and the other Aston run, that's fun.
Spicy another time penalty. Bags now down to 10th position. It's not been a great race for the Aston Martin driver. He'll just hope to try and finish this race. Move on to the next one. Over at Circuit Paul Ricard, which might be a bit of a farewell to the racetrack as Ford moves by Kong into P7. Circuit Paul Ricard won't be on the 2023 calendar, so there's a chance that it won't feature in the F1 23 game. It might feature as DLC. I'd reckon that's a pretty high probability, but if it doesn't, it might be our little farewell race to Le Castellet. Well, you got to feel sorry for all the Paul Ricard fans, all the Circuit Paul Ricard fans, all 7 of them. So.
Jeez, you're making them sound like Diamondback fans. Oh hello, spin again. That's
Kong.
Yep, at the outside of Chapel.
Well, that was he just centered across the grass and rejoined like it was nothing. There was a 99% chance he was going to spin out and put it into the wall. But thankfully, that 1% came in clutch. And he didn't spin out and put it into a wall. I don't know how he didn't spin out and put it into the wall, but he did it. So, well, I'm going to question it.
Well, what you don't have to question right now is that Big Al is just DRS on Ferrari Pro.
Nope, he's in a second, so... Ferrari Pro's going to have his wing mirrors fill up with Alfa Romeo in a minute. Round Luffield. The gap continues to close. And there's Smithy in P3. Hunting away in the background, closing the gap. This battle ain't over, folks, between the top 3. I think it's only just begun. Through the S's of Maggots Beckett's from Chapel. Gap hovering at 8/10. Al slightly better corner speed, it seems. Down the straights he's obviously quicker thanks to DRS. Smithy loses time naturally down the straights as he doesn't have the same assistance that Al has right now. Ferrari Pro keeping the gap healthy. Sitting at 7/10 of a second as they head around Club Corner and back onto the Hamilton Straight. It's lap 19 of 26. We've got 8 laps to go of this British Grand Prix. And there are clouds, KD. There are a fair few clouds. Just about everywhere.
Yeah, it's a bit gloomy. I don't think, from what it's looking like to me, it's going to be threatening for rain. At least I don't think so. Well, I don't think we're going to be at that point.
I suppose there's only one way for us to find out.
Yep.
Right now it's dry though, and that's all that matters. But if we do have any wet weather interference, I wonder how much chaos that is going to bring. Remember, the pit lane here is awfully long, over 30 seconds. If there's only one lap that's in intermediate conditions, and that lap being the final lap, do you even pit as Bags Liddell spins out? This is gonna get interesting, especially if weather decides to play a factor. Half a second is now the gap between Ferrari Pro and Big Al. 1.4 seconds is the gap between Big Al and Smithy. Sergio Plebs is overtaken Spy. I'm not going to say Sergio Plebs. It is screwing my brain up. You're Plebs, you're Spicy. Plebs is in front. Oh, that has well and truly screwed me over.
Yeah. I mean, don't worry. I frickin' mistaken Ford for Spicy when we was battling Con on the first lap. So.
Yeah, I just straight up can't pronounce Pleves off the top of my... I have to force that out.
Sergio Pleves. That honestly sounds very wrong.
I have to force the letters out of my mouth. They do not want to come out, but I must force them out. Pleves. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Sergio Pleves. Yeah, that just sounds wrong. Yeah.
I'm now sticking with Pleves.
I mean, for someone that lives in California, like, I'm used to Spanish enunciation. But I can't do a Spanish enunciation for that.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
Neither, I got nothing. I got nothing. Oh, and the gap is almost nothing between Ferrari Pro and Big Al. Al has closed the gap up. It's now down to 3.5 tenths as they head around the final corner and back onto the main straight. It's now lap 21 of 26. We've got 6 laps to go here at Silverstone. What can Big Al do? The clouds, they are here. Will they give us any rain? We're not sure. Can Ferrari Pro hang on to this race lead? Oh, yee. Big Al, very deep on the brakes. There at turn 4. Almost hit the back of Ferrari Pro. That was very close. 32% battery. That's how much Al has. 29% on Ferrari Pro's car. A measly 8% on Smithy's Aston Martin. All pretty low in terms of battery right now. It's going to be a game of raw pace, I would think. Who's got it? Is it Ferrari Pro? Is it Al or is it Smithy? Seeing Smithy's sheer straight line speed. Nice overhead shot here, looking down at the drivers, making their way out of the S's and down the hangar straight towards Stowe. Al closing the gap. Smithy, not as much. Mostly keeping up with Big Al there. Ford, Spicy, side by side. Down the inside goes Ford. He moves through into P6. His next target will be Plevs. I'm not saying it the other way. Kong moves through. He's into P8. Zach moves down into 9th. There's your top 3. Heading around Village. Around the loop. And towards Aintree. Onto the Wellington Straight. Oh, look it out. There we go. And the wide again still does that. It's been a spectator bug since the very beginning where you can flick between drivers and sometimes it doesn't look at the driver that you actually want to look at. That has not been fixed. That has been in the game since the very beginning and it's not been worked on once. So shows how much Codemasters care.
Now, well, they care about it, kind of stuff, so.
Yep. 14%, 16% in Smithy's car. Big Al is up to 46. Ferrari Pro on 17. Half a second is the gap. Towards Stowe corner. Al not close enough to make a move. But I think all he's trying to do is prepare. He's trying to save up battery. Make Ferrari Pro spend battery to stay in front. Al's trying to give himself a resource advantage in terms of battery. If he gives himself that advantage, he gives himself a better chance of not only making the move on Ferrari Pro, but making it stick and hang on to the race lead. Smithy, though, he is now caught on properly to the back of this. He's only 3.5 tenths behind Big Al. The battle is truly on between the top 3. Who will prevail? Al closing in on the brakes. Through Brooklands into Luffield. The gap sitting at 4 tenths of a second. The gap fluctuating out of the corner. All three drivers getting a pretty even exit. They're all pretty even right now in terms of pace.
Ooh, I think Ferrari from a tad bit wide there, Cops.
Yeah, maybe. It was close.
Yeah.
Hard to say though with the game. You can sometimes maybe get away with that.
Now, out of the top three, Smithy and Big Al are the only ones that have got 2 warnings. Driver has 1. So obviously if the guys second and third get another warning, you know the deal. They get second and third.
Down the inside goes G-Force Ford. He moves into P5. Or yellow, that was bagged.
Yep, the chapel.
Through turn 3, up towards turn 4. And out closes in. So much under brake. So confident.
Well, you know he had a wiggle there.
He did.
Big Al.
Sure did. But he caught it well. 2.5 tenths is the gap. Well, that was some quick shifts down. Bang, bang, bang. It went like an old F1 gearbox from the V8, V10 era. They just spam it down, whatever gear they need. Round cops. Up towards the S's now. Al stalking his prey, following his lines. Yellow's out. It's Kong. He does a pirouette on the grass. Goes onto the gravel. Makes his way back onto the racetrack, down in 10th position. Al closing in. Not by enough to pass yet, but he's playing a longer game. He's letting his opponent stay in front. He's letting himself save battery. He's going to put himself in a very strong position to try and win this race. Down the Hamilton straight we go. We have 2 laps left in this British Grand Prix. Through turn 1, through Abbey, into turn 2. Up towards the village hairpin. Again, Al close. This time takes a much wider line. Try and get a better exit. He'll open DRS. Won't use any battery though. He's not trying to attack yet. Right, moving around a little bit, trying to break the toe. Roscoe arm, G-Force Zach, 3-second time penalties. Gee whiz, they have some time penalties down there. Fair few. They're all pretty well spread out right now though. Kong goes into pit lane. Evidently he must have an issue or... Oh, dearie me! There's another one and it's Big Al. A 3-second time penalty. Has Ferrari Pro been let off the hook? Or is there still a challenge remaining from our championship leader Smithy? Who knows? Al's put the hammer down. He's going to draw alongside and move into the race lead. He runs a tad bit wide, but he keeps the position. Yellow's out. I think that was Kong going a bit slowly. Oh, a bit of a wiggle from Smithy.
Oh, lag. Oh, a little bit of lag there on my end. Well, they goes to the inside of him.
Alright, the final lap here at Silverstone, lap 26 of 26. The top 3 are separated by half a second. Smithy is close. He is right on the back of Ferrari Pro.
Doesn't get percent, I'm surprised. At turn 3 or 4, he could have done something there.
DRS open on both cars. Smithy won't be able to close in to try and attack into Brooklands. He's too far back. Sends it in deep on the brake, so tries to gain time as we go through Luffield. He hugs the inside line the whole way round. Tidy exit from both drivers. The gap is sitting at 0.2 of a second. Down the old pit straight for the final time towards the notorious Cops corner. There's the leader. Here comes Ferrari Pro and Smithy. They all get through. Into the infamous S's for one last time. Chucking it through. Heading around the right-hander of Beckett's. then Chapel. The gap's 3/10. Is Smithy close enough? He's got a bit of battery to play with. He's got the slipstream. He is closing in on Ferrari Pro. Is it enough? No, not through Stowe. There's one opportunity left, and it's at the Vale chicane. He's dumping whatever's left in that battery. He looks, he shoots, he hits Ferrari Pro. And oh no, he keeps it on the racetrack. Only just though. Big Al will cross the line in first. He will not keep it. Ferrari Pro will win the British Grand Prix. It almost ended in disaster, but fortunately all drivers managed to finish that race.
Jeez. I don't know about that. That was a little bit moving under braking there by Ferrari Pro, if I'm totally honest.
Well,
that might be looked at.
We'll see.
But we'll see at the end, of course. But wow.
ACW will finish in 4th, GeForce Ford in 5th, followed by Plebs in 6th, Spicy 7th, GeForce Zach in 8th, Bags in 9th, Marvel in 10th, Roscoe Arm 11th, followed by AMS Kong. Kong trying to go for fastest lap, it seems. See if he can do it. What's the best lap? Let's have a look. 28.4 is the time to beat.
And he's purple as well.
Alright, 28.4, that is the time to beat. Let's see. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, yep. Fastest lap point for Kong then, right at the end of the race. He'll finish in 12th. Well, quite a dramatic ending to this Grand Prix. Right now it is F1 Ferrari Pro who is our winner here at Silverstone. P2 goes to our championship leader Smithy. P3 to Big Al, our substitute, or rather reserve driver, filling in for this Grand Prix. The unofficial results then of the British Grand Prix. F1 Ferrari Pro is your race winner by 0.3 of a second to Smithy in P2. Big Al will complete the podium places in 3rd. ACW finishes in 4th. Another solid outing for the Ferrari team. Ford recovered to P5. Plebs P6, followed by Spicy in 7th. People Zach P8. Then Bags in 9th. Marvel at P10. Then Roscoe Arm and Kong. Nice recovery as well for ACW after qualifying. P10, I'm sure he was not at all happy with the lap, not at all happy with the session. So to finish in the top 5 is nice damage limitation for himself and for the Ferrari team and the constructors. No, with only 12 drivers, this was certainly a fascinating race.
Yeah, not too bad. Not bad quality of race at least, but yeah. Wish he could have been better with the attendance.
Oh well.
Oh well, it happens.
Happens too often. But what are you going to do?
Fair enough.
Get Ferrari Pro in here. Scroll there. There we are. Virtual showroom. But while Ferrari Pro is joining, just like to mention, 3rd place Big Al, solid drive from you as expected. I mean, your championship leader in Pacific 2-1 for a reason. But no, kept it tidy. Unfortunate about the penalty. If it weren't for the penalty, would have won this race fairly comfortably. But yeah, Silverstone's it's a tough place at times when it comes to track limits, so a bit unfortunate for that. But no, thanks Al for the reserve drive today, just to fill in the several vacant seats right now. And another GG's to our championship leader, Smithy, continuing the podium streak. It wasn't the win, but this is still big points in the Drivers' Championship, and for the Constructors. Aston Martin are still very much in it. So no, congrats on the P2 finish. But he's joined us, Ferrari Pro.
Yo.
Race winner of the British Grand Prix. How does it feel?
Yeah, pretty happy. Yeah, just pretty happy to be back on the top step. First one since Mexico.
I know you drove a pretty tidy race, it seemed.
Yeah, it was pressuring.
Yeah.
Yeah, very pressuring.
But I'll quickly adjust audio just quickly, just to make sure everyone can be heard clearly. There we go. That should be a bit better. But we'll go all the way back to qualifying. How did that go for you? You managed to put together a pretty decent lap at the end of the session.
Oh man, I was like so happy. I thought I got pole, but then I saw 40 get up there, but I know it wasn't by a lot, so I was still happy. It was fun, the wet conditions in qualifying. I didn't mind them.
It looked like a bit of a struggle right at the beginning, though. You were slipping and sliding everywhere.
Yeah, I had 2 spins right on Chapel, so
Yep.
Yeah, it was a hair raiser, but yeah, got through it.
Fair enough. But yeah, you didn't miss out by much. It was 25 thousandths of a second between you and Ford at the end of quali.
Really close.
Just pipped to the post, I suppose.
Yeah.
You were pipped to turn 1 as well. Outshot through the middle and took the pair of you off the line.
He got a really good start. Because I know there's like a thing at Silverstone where like sometimes whatever grid slot you're in, you can get like bogged down or something. Like you just get in the same mode of wheel spin. I've had it a lot in career mode and that, and I think I've seen like other people saying it, but
Interesting.
I've never noticed that, but that's interesting.
I don't think I had it like tonight, but I think it was just a poor start on my end anyway. I mean, I jumped 40, but yeah, I was just too good in that clutch launch.
But no, after that, though, you kept up with Al. That was a really important thing to do during those opening stages, to try and build up the gap. And you were part of a 3-car group. You had Al in front of you and Ford behind. And they both spun out to give you the lead. That must have been nice.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. I didn't have to really fight for it, so I just took the advantage and I was like, yeah, we'll just carry on while we're at it. And yeah, it was pretty nice having that.
Must have been pretty worrying, though, to see Smithy closing in.
Oh god, yeah. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, man, this is annoying.
Yeah, you two had a bit of an interesting coming together from what we saw on the final lap at Vale. It kind of looked like to me in my POV that you kind of moved a little bit late under braking, but I'm just saying that's what it kind of looked like on my POV.
Well, I'm pretty sure it might have looked a bit late, but I'm fairly sure that I moved at like before he was actually going to make the dive, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I'll have to watch the footage back, but
yeah, no, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't think he would have even made the corner anyway, to be honest. Like we can't predict the future, or like the present or whatever was going to happen. But I don't think he would have made the corner. He probably would have overshot it, or went into my front lane. So.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like make it like a Stewart kind of case or whatever, but I'm just saying from what happened with you two.
Yeah.
But your strategy to pit earlier onto the medium compound tyre worked a treat. I was a bit surprised that some of the other drivers stayed out for as long as they did. Were you a tad bit surprised, knowing that? Yeah. Well, did you know that the undercut was quite strong here at Silverstone? I
mean, I thought it was going to be a bit stronger because I think I went into the pit lane. I did go in the neutral going in the pit lane, so that could have been a tense loss there. But
yeah,
before I was about, I think, 4.1 to Smithy. Then when he came out, and even though I was on like cold to warm tyres, he was like 3.1 behind. So I was like really confused. So, but I was surprised seeing 40 out there for that long. Like I knew he had the spin in that, but yeah, I was pretty surprised seeing him.
And caught up on that gap between yourself and Smithy after the pits. I was a tad bit surprised as well. He must have done pretty well on his end lap. Try and close. I mean, granted, you probably had a slightly cold tyres for the start of your out lap, which would have naturally cost you time. But yeah, and eventually you three came together. You, Big Al, Smithy, you were at the front. You said when you joined here was a pressuring race. I'm guessing that's where all the pressure came from, right, in those final dying laps.
Well, it was the longest 10 laps I've had in a long time. Like it was awful. I was oh my god, I just couldn't like. I was just focusing so hard, and I'm so tired from focusing right now. So I didn't want to make one little mistake and then like screw it up. So
well,
yeah, it was.
Fortunately, one of your rivals made a mistake. Must have been a relief to see Al get the 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, it was pretty nice seeing that, but I knew I didn't have enough battery, and I knew probably Smithy and Al had more battery, so I was pretty happy to see Al go past and just me sticking the DRS, but yeah, Smithy was just had a rocket ship Merc engine in that Aston.
Yeah, no, you held on to your race lead with a lap to go. Al took it, but with the penalty, it ultimately meant that one of you two were going to win the race. You've already spoken about what happened at Vale. It must have been pretty relieving then when you crossed the line. You ended up coming home at first.
Yeah, I was really happy. I was like, honestly, like the adrenaline's still pumping and that. And until I look at it, I was a bit like, why was there contact in that? But there could be a story to it when I look at it. But no, I was really, really happy about it.
Fair enough. But KD, do you have anything else to ask a race winner?
Yeah, nothing else really other than congratulations on your victory. Very hard victory, I would think from your POV, but still a victory nonetheless.
Yeah, it was pretty one I had to fight for. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, your second win of the season, looking at the table. Actually, no, your first. Second. It's covered up.
Yeah,
you won in Mexico. Yeah, it's just the Grand Prix one is purple, so it didn't tell me it was in first. You did finish first, but you got first and fastest lap. So
was that from the overall weekend, or is that from...
Yeah, no, he won that. He won both the sprint and the main race.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so he did win overall.
Yeah. So no, second win of the season, Mexico and Silverstone. Not a bad effort. Not bad at all. But next week, Ferrari Pro, we're heading over to Circuit Paul Ricard for what might be the last time. You never know. What's your thoughts heading into next week's race?
Well, if it's the last one, hopefully it's a good send-off for Paul Ricard, and like Race Spec Esports. Like it's been a fun track. Like even just in any league racing, I feel like it produces like really good racing in like the esports world. And
I agree.
It's a fun track. I really do like it. So it'll be good.
Yeah, it's one of those circuits where it's a polar opposite to what it is in the real world. Like other famous racetracks that are like that, from my experiences, are circuits like Barcelona and Sochi. Those two, they always produce boring races in real life, but in the virtual world, man, you can get some bangers. And I think Paul Ricard, as you said, is a bit like that as well. It can produce some very interesting racing. Well, better luck. Best of luck. That's what I was meant to say. Best of luck next week. For now, congratulations on winning the British Grand Prix. Well done.
Thanks, Lane and KD, for the commentary, and congrats, Big Al and Smithy, on P2 and 3. And also, happy Easter, everyone who celebrates it. So,
indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Happy to see you too.
I'm certainly celebrating it. I'm celebrating the fact that it's a long weekend, so it's great. But KD, I think that'll wrap everything up. Not a bad race, not bad. We had our moments of drama, moments of action, and filled with 12 cars, producing a decent race. Not bad at all.
Yeah, it was alright. I think it's not about like the size like you mentioned before, it's just the quality of the field, and I think it was decent quality tonight, for sure.
Well, yeah, we had that sort of midfield pack battling against each other for ages for a while, and then, everybody eventually spread out because of the pit stop strategies, which happens in normal racing, but we eventually had a top 3 fight for the race win. That almost ended in catastrophe. Fortunately, it didn't. But we got plenty of drama already in the championship. We don't need to add in any more. Hopefully next week provides us with a fantastic race. As it might just well be the send-off for the French Grand Prix, at least for the foreseeable future anyway. But I think, folks, with everything said and done, it's time for us to end the stream. I've been Lane Everingham. My co-commentator, as always, is KD1997. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for round 11 of the championship at Circuit Paul Ricard for the French Grand Prix. Until then, it's goodbye.